Hey friends, exciting news, we've just had a baby and we are going to make her a millionaire through investing. And in this video, we're going to show you how to invest for your kids as well. Thanks so much to Pella for sponsoring this video, but more on them later. So you're probably wondering how we're going to make our daughter a millionaire, and it is through this beautiful thing called compound interest. Our plan is to invest $1,000 per year on her birthday. If we do this every year and assuming an 8% yearly return, by the time she's 18, she'll have over $40,000 in her account. But it gets even crazier. If she leaves that money in her account, by the time she's 65, she'll have $1.8 million without having to invest a single dollar, and we would have only contributed $19,000. And that is the power of compound interest. And if she gets any cash gifts from friends or family, we're going to invest half of it and then give her the other half to spend on whatever she likes. And these extra cash gifts from friends or family aren't included in these numbers, but will be a nice bonus for her when she's a young adult. So these are the reasons why we've decided to invest for our daughter, and the reasons why many parents choose to invest for their kids. The first, to teach our kids the benefits of investing, and also to help give them a head start in life, because as we know, life can be quite expensive, and it gets even more expensive every single year because of inflation and the rising cost of living. And that's why if we want our money to be worth more over time, rather than be eaten away by inflation and the rising cost of living, it's a good idea to invest. Our kids are also young and they have time on their side. The stock market doesn't return a perfect 8% per year. Some years it can be more and some years it can be less. But over the long term, the stock market has had an average annual return from 6 to 12% per year. So the great news is our kids have time on their side so they can ride out the volatility in the stock market. As we know, life is expensive and inflation averages between 2 to 3% per year, which means every year the value of our money decreases slightly and things get more expensive. So if we want our kids to be able to afford things in the future, then it's a great idea to give them a head start and start investing for them. Just remember that this video is general advice only and doesn't constitute personal financial advice or personal tax advice. If you'd like personal financial advice or personal tax advice, it's a good idea to reach out to a professional who can tailor it to your personal situation. You can read my full financial services guide in the description. When it comes to investing for kids, there are 4 main ways that you can invest for your kids, and there are different pros and cons for each. The first option is to invest in your own name and then gift it to your kids later. And the pros of this is it's a simple strategy. It can also be beneficial if you or your partner have a low marginal tax rate, because the investment earnings will be taxed in the name of the owner. And if there has been a capital gain on your investments, you can pay it in your own name before gifting it to your kids. So then the cost hasn't been passed on. And the cons of this strategy is when you do gift the investments to your kids, the ownership changes. And this means it will trigger a capital gains tax event. So without proper planning, this means that you could have a potentially big tax bill upon gifting your investments to your children. However, this is all assuming that you have made a capital gain or profit on your investments, which is essentially a good problem to have. The second option is to invest in your child's name and your child's tax file number. The pros of this strategy is since it is in your child's name already, you don't need to transfer the ownership later on down the line. So no capital gains tax event applies when you are transferring the ownership, since the ownership will be in the child's name from the beginning. The cons of this strategy is children can only earn $416 per financial year tax-free, and if they exceed this threshold, then children under the age of 18 pay the highest marginal tax rate. So this wouldn't really be an issue if you and your partner are in the highest marginal tax rates, but potentially there could be some other better options out there if you and your partner are in the lower marginal tax rates. The third option is to invest with an informal trust. This is similar to investing in your own name. You own the asset in your name as a trustee for your child. There are several online brokers and investing apps, including Perla, that allow you to invest with informal trusts. The pros of this strategy is 1, it is quite simple. It can be beneficial if you or your partner have a lower marginal tax rate, since the investment earnings will be taxed in you or your partner's name. And unlike the first option that we spoke about earlier, where you invest in your own name, when you invest through an informal trust, when your child turns 18, this will not trigger a capital gains tax event when you do transfer the ownership. And this is possible because, according to the ATO, Under an informal trust, the beneficial owner is the child as the assets have been owned as a trustee for. And the cons of this strategy is the income will still be taxed at either you or your partner's marginal tax rate. So it's a good idea to set up the informal trust in the name of the parent with the lower marginal tax rate. And the final option is to invest using a discretionary family trust. And this is personally the option that Pablo and I have gone with. And basically how this works is each financial year, the income and the capital gains tax that we have made from our investments, we essentially get to distribute it to the beneficiaries of the trust. The pros of this strategy is you essentially get to choose who pays the tax based on your family members' marginal tax rates, so it can be quite flexible. Another pro is that beneficiaries can be family members, and they can also be companies or other trusts run by family members. And the final pro is it doesn't trigger a capital gains tax event if we do want to give the assets of our trust to our daughter, so long as she is listed as a beneficiary. The cons of this strategy is family trusts can be quite expensive to set up and operate, so it may not be the best option if you only want to invest a little bit each year. Another con is it can make doing your taxes every year really complicated because you essentially need to do another tax return for this family trust. So if you are looking to set up a family trust, make sure you speak to an accountant just to make sure it actually is worth it for your own personal situation, because it can cost around $2,000 to set up, and there are also ongoing costs every single year. So if it's not something that's worth it for you, don't worry, because there are plenty of other options out there like we've discussed in this video. With Perla, you can invest for your kids using any of these options. So now we know the different options that we can use to invest for our kids. You might be wondering, what can you actually invest in? It's really up to you. There are many different investment options, including stocks and individual companies, ETFs, bonds, or even crypto. And if you would like a full breakdown of 10 different ETFs that you could potentially invest in, I highly recommend you check out this video here. Personally, we've decided to keep our daughter's portfolio very simple and just invest in ETFs because they are low cost and they are diversified. And we don't have to worry about doing lots of analysis, picking different individual companies to invest in. But potentially in the future, we may want to add these different things to our portfolio. So now I'm going to show you exactly how to invest for your kids step by step using Perla, who is also the sponsor of today's video. The first step is to click on this dollar symbol, deposit cash. I'm going to choose our daughter's account. Then we select how much we would like to deposit, for example, $1,000. And here it gives me two different options that I can deposit money into this account. I can pay using PayID or BSB and account number. I usually use PayID because it is instant. And once the money lands in your account, you can make an investment, and I'll show you how. I just click on invest in AU shares. Here I can select the ETF that I would like to invest in, for example, VDHG. Then I click on buy, and then I put in how much I would like to invest, for example, $1,000. And there you have it, I've just made my investment. You can invest for your kids too using Perla, and you can use my code Queenie for a $20 credit. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. And write us a comment below with the word Gia in it, just so we know you watched this video all the way through.
Thank you.
And Gia is the name of our baby girl.